Hi everybody, good afternoon. Sarah here. I'm so glad to be here, and I'm so glad that you are too. I started that intro like 3 years ago. Isn't that amazing to think I've been doing this for 3 years? I may even be a little bit longer that I've been doing lives, because I started doing lives as soon as I left my former job. And I wanted to share the message of what was happening with me and these like awarenesses that I was having. And I got really excited about finding out that there was a different way to live, right? Leaving my very dependable job was a terrifying experience. And at the same time, it was so exciting and hopeful and freeing. And I just had this very strong prompting inside of me that said, just start sharing on Facebook, tell people what's going on with you, give them hope, share your story. And so I started doing lives back in 2019, right after, well, within a few months of leaving my former job. So glad to be here with you. And that's what that phrasing is about, is that I had lost my desire to live back in 2019. Well, I had started to lose it several years before that. And found desire to live in 2019. And so my appreciation of life is in that little intro that I give. And that I'm so glad that you're here too, because you're tapping into something much greater than yourself, and you're tapping into this new experience and new desire for life, which is a very exciting thing worth celebrating and commenting on literally every time I get on Facebook. Okay, so let's jump right in, because I have some thoughts that I wanted to follow up. If you didn't get a chance to watch my live yesterday, hop on. It's full of amazing stuff. You'll want to like sit down and really listen to it if you're working on liberating yourself and desire more understanding of what it means to actually have control over your thoughts. And that's what I want to dive into more nitty-gritty today, which is really looking at this idea that you actually can control your thoughts. What does this mean? So I don't mean it in the sense of like you can control literally the thought that just popped into your mind right now, right? I mean, to some degree you can now control it, of whether or not you want to continue thinking it. And even then, if you're where I was maybe like 5 years ago, and you're experiencing a lot of thoughts that you definitely don't want to be having, which I was having 5 years ago, and I could not figure out how to get rid of them. And they would just keep coming, and they were thoughts that were hurtful to myself and on my desire to live. And so, while I'm hoping you're not having those thoughts, if you are, I just want you to know you're in good company, and there is hope for where you're at right now to get to where I am in a relatively short period of time. Okay, so why is this important, right? You can control your thoughts. Naturally, if you're having thoughts that you don't want to be having, it's so important to actually understand how you can have control over them. And I'll just say the word control sometimes can be a little bit of a trigger. It's oftentimes used in ways that are like negative or not a good thing. But obviously in this case, I'm meaning it as like agency over yourself, right? That you're having power over yourself. So when you're thinking about having control over your thoughts, this is of course a much bigger picture thing, and it's looking at how we go about actually having agency over our thoughts, what goes in, what we spend time meditating on. This hit me just a couple of years ago, that all this conversation around meditation, in my church upbringing, it was not really talked about in context of meditation, and that was like sort of a foreign thing, and some apprehension toward it, like, oh, I'm not sure what that thing is, right? For those of you that grew up in church. For those of you that didn't, I imagine there are all different kind of connotations with meditation. And if we really just think about the word meditation, super, super simple, right? Meditation is to have something on your mind that you are holding space for, right? that you have that's sitting there that you're like giving real deep thought over, even if you're trying to clear out the thoughts, there's still this like meditation, this repeated effort that is going into a specific thought or a specific state of mind. So when you're meditating, right, and you have these thoughts going on in your mind, you're essentially integrating those thoughts into your being, okay? That's why this whole concept is so important, is because literally the things that we think about, that we think on, that we spend time with in our own minds, it ends up then creating our life. It creates the circumstances with which we find ourselves. So if you're not happy, and I just use that word loosely to define like feeling a sense of satisfaction, a sense of fulfillment in your life, you're not happy with the current results in your life, you're not enjoying your job, you're not making enough money, you don't have the love that you want in your life, you don't have the flexibility or the freedom. The reason that you don't have those things all starts right here, right? And the majority of those things, the way in which we ultimately create those things, happens right here in your mind. And the thoughts with which you meditate on, the thoughts with which you spend time on, because those thoughts are certainly connected to the things that you believe, right? Connected to your values, connected to your worldview, whatever words, whatever verbiage fits right for you to think about it. So having control over your thoughts, I'll just tell you this really quick story and then I'll let you go. So actually I have another meeting, but I was at Whole Foods yesterday and we were getting our Thanksgiving turkey meal lined up. And I started talking to this lovely woman that was helping us. She was definitely older, in her 60s, maybe 70. And she then started to tell us how she had retired and had come back to work because she was so bored and she just didn't feel excited about life anymore. And so she was like, I had to get a job so that I could get excited about life again and feel like I had purpose, which is a whole nother topic. Please, I will definitely hit on that one. If you happen to be in that boat, I can absolutely help you with that. So then she also starts to say things like, this is not what I normally do. I normally help over in this other department. So please bear with me. I'm really not good at this. If I am coming across like I am not very with it, it's because I don't really know what I'm doing. That's just like the sentiment in general, right? And that's definitely how Troy and I heard it. And Troy and I both chimed in, like, you're doing great. Like, we're having a great experience here with you. This is a great, interaction. Like, feel good about it. And so I really got to thinking, and Troy and I had a lovely conversation after this. This is exactly why our thoughts and our controlling our thoughts, our having control over the things that we spend time thinking about is so, so, so important. Because that woman, right, had several things going on with her, right? Like one big picture was she couldn't find her purpose and fulfillment outside of work, right? Literally showing up at a job. So that's like a whole big thought process right there. But then even just in the ones that she was sharing with us yesterday, it's like this idea being communicated, right, that she wasn't good enough. For those of you that have been following, I think most things come back to this feeling of shame that humans experience often and or have to really understand in order to not feel it. So she was expressing these various sentiments around shame and feeling not good enough and already assuming that she wasn't doing the current job that she was being asked to do well, right? And that it was impairing our experience of her and of our, signing up for our turkey, right? And I use this very simple example because it just literally happened yesterday. And it so well illustrates how our thoughts dictate our results. They dictate our current circumstances. So I want to encourage you, so important to really understand and have control over your own thoughts. So the other piece that I put in here in the description is that this is the path to creating heaven. Mind-blowing awareness that I have had over this last year or so. This is literally how you create heaven. If you're a religious person or you grew up religious, which I did, I always like to throw this part in there. While I recognize a lot of my audience is also not religious, so you don't have this struggle to figure out in this way. But for those of you that did and have that in your context, in your construct, to be aware, we actually have access to heaven right now. It is not something that you have to wait for after you die. It's actually available right now. And I feel so passionate about sharing the information, I had to add that in here. I will share more on that at another time. And of course, if you're curious about it, please send me a private message and we can chat more, because like I said, it's a mind-blowing awareness to walk into. But when you really do the work and you show up with an ownership and an awareness over your thoughts, and you do the work to construct your thoughts such that they are loving and kind and compassionate and inspiring and empowering within yourself, all of that going on in your inner world, imagine what that feels like. It absolutely represents heaven and literally creates a heaven in your own internal world. Okay, you guys, I'm going to leave it right there. For those of you that are curious and intrigued by what I'm sharing, please drop me a PM. I would love to chat further. Feel free to comment here your takeaways, your insights, your awarenesses, how this helped you. And I plan to be on live here lots between now and the end of the year. I feel very just called to be here over the next 45 days. So I look forward to spending more time with you. And between now and when I see you next, go do that thing you most want to be doing. I promise it will help you get where you really want to go. Okay, you guys, thanks for being with me, and I'll talk to you soon.